Well, God bless you one and all. Welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And of course, my name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of Liberty Hall, Cathedral of Praise, right here in the heart of Brooklyn. And certainly tonight, we want to shout out to the visionary of the Bishop's Corner, Philip Reed, who is affectionately known as Dr. Phil. And certainly, Dr. Phil is doing a tremendous job. Well, tonight we are blessed. We have a great topic that we will be dealing with. However, before we go there, let me just make some introduction at this time to those that will be on discussing this topic. First of all, we're happy to have the only female that's on tonight, and we're so happy to have Tatiana Rennie with us. Can we make her feel welcome? And certainly we are, thank you very much, lady, to be weighing in with us tonight. Certainly it's a pleasure. Next, we want to thank the Lord for the apostle, known affectionately as a little brother. Apostle Lucian Roas is back with us. My friend, it's a pleasure to have you once again on the Bishop's Corner. And then we want to thank the good Lord for Leroy, that's back with us. Lance Yancer, that's with us. Can we make him feel welcome? Certainly, young man, it's a pleasure once again to have you on the Bishop's Corner. And then we want to thank the good Lord for Rashawn Trower, that's with us tonight. Can we also make him feel welcome? I think we also have, is it Barbara D. Clark that's coming on with us? Is she on tonight with us? Okay. However, tonight we are dealing with a beautiful topic. However, before we should go into that, I believe that there is a video to be played. So at this time, we'll be asking Philip Reed just to weigh on in and do what he does best. Phil, it's in your hands. Phil, indeed, I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm sure that all of us did. Well, that was To Be a Man. Insight from Doxy's song To Be a Man. Okay, tonight we are dealing with masculinity. Now, I do love the chorus of that song that goes something like this. I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home. Before we should get to question number one, hear this. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. I want to put that question to the panel tonight. What really is a man? What really is a man? When we speak about masculinity, manhood, what really is a man? Now, seeing that we have three beautiful, gigantic, handsome, debonair, well knowledgeable men, let's hear from the men first, because of course they are men, so they should definitely know what a man is. Now let's go first of all the way to Rashawn. Rashawn, my friend, what really is a man?
That's a bit of a difficult question, but I will say that a man is not determined by age. A man is determined by what he does and how he takes care of himself. Because you have plenty of 30, 40, 50-year-old boys, and you have a ton of aged men. Because as my dad always told me, a man takes care of his home and takes care of himself. And so, that's my definition of what it means to be.
Okay, let's hear from Leroy. Leroy, what really is a man?
Off of what Rashawn said, the a man is not age. You're I know like plenty of older boys, like he said, but I would say a man is responsible. He handles his responsibilities. He's a man is a person who's secure in their masculinity, and a man can be the wolf when it's needed, and he can cage it when it's not. He can create a home that the women in his home are free to express themselves. My daughter is free, she's free to be the person she wants to be. I don't inhibit her. I don't hold her back. I want her to be all that she can be. And I see it as my role as a father to protect and nurture that. So and that's what I see as a man is you're the provider, you're the protector, you're in a small extent, you're the nurturer. So it's it's all about responsibility and having that role.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Would you say that a man has got several different roles to play?
Yeah. Everybody has different roles to play. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, you've got different roles to play. I mean, sometimes the woman has to step up and do the stuff that the man does. Sometimes the man has to step up and do what the woman does. Doesn't make a man a woman or a woman a man. I mean, we're both different, but I mean, we're people. You specialization is for insects. So
Thank you very much. Okay, we are so honored to be blessed with the presence of Drew. Drew Dorani, I believe it is. Okay,
Yes.
with us tonight, and can we just make him feel welcome? Certainly, it's a pleasure to have you with us, young man. Okay, okay. Now, the words of the chorus is this. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. Apostle, what is it like to be a man? What really is a man? You're muted.
A man is a powerful force for good, and he embraces responsibility because when God made man in the beginning in the Garden of Eden, Adam was supposed to take care and be the leader. So I would say a man is I use the three P's. He's a protector.
Mm-hmm.
He demonstrates strength. He's a provider. He's the breadwinner. He's the priest. He's the spiritual leader. And there are so many other attributes. But like earlier, Leroy was saying he don't cry, but we show our emotion in different ways, and we just can't paint it with a broad brush. Depends on our upbringing, our childhood experiences. Sometimes we could express our emotion in different ways. It doesn't mean you're wrong or right, but some men do cry, but we see crying as sometimes as a sign of weakness. Not necessarily so. A man can love. A man can do the dishes. A man can change a pampers. That doesn't make him less of a man.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, young man. I really enjoy that. Okay, Drew, I know you just came on, but seeing that you are indeed a man, okay, what really is a man?
A man's a caregiver. A man is somebody you can lean on when you need somebody to lean on. A man is somebody you can count on when you need somebody to count on. A man is somebody you can believe in when you need somebody to believe in. And a man can be whomever he needs to be in order to serve in kindness.
Okay, okay, well said indeed, young man. Okay, now the only lady that's on the panel tonight, and definitely she is not a man. She is not a man. That is Tatiana. Okay, now Tatiana, if anyone knows what a man is, I'm sure Tatiana does. Tatiana, the question is, what is a man?
Well, I like the definitions and how you all gave your, you know, idea of what is a man. I agree with it all. As a woman, I think being authenticating a man's role is exactly how I want to say, I have it written here. Leroy and Lucian, and how you explained it. It's not about age, it's exactly about taking responsibility, right? But like I explained before we went on air, traditionally men saw themselves in how physically strong they were, and how controlling they can be. Today, I think that those roles have changed. Seeing a man being able to do household chores without feeling like it's taken away from their masculinity or their role as a man, as a provider, as a nurturer, is amazing. Being able to be the partner, not the one that's dictating everything in the home, is also important, right? My dad always told me, you don't want to walk in front of a man or behind a man. You want to walk next to a man, right? Being a partner. So for me, that would be the ideal, definition. Someone that is my equal, someone that I can talk to, lean on, or also be the rock when they need to lean on. I do find strength in a male's vulnerability. That is something that for me is essential and integral and a really vital part in a man's, way of communicating with a woman, especially because sometimes you have to pull out the words from a man when they're going through something. I heard before some men don't like to burden their other half, right? But sometimes it's not about being a burden. It's how we can not facilitate, but be there and, supporting that man, maybe even help, in whatever it is that they're going through. Just like we want to feel that we can turn to them if we needed to, right? I think that men also feel like in some ways being a protector means I can't, disclose everything. What are you protecting us from? I think it's very important in a relationship.
Tatiana, just a quick question. Would you say that the definition of a man has changed in the last 50, 60 years?
Yes, I do. And it's important to say that the roles of men and women have changed. In the video that we saw, I saw military men, first responder, the firefighter being a man, the parent being a man, and obviously this topic is about a man's, role and how they are defined. However, women go through similar things as well, coming from a male dominant career as in law enforcement. I found myself doing exactly what men would do, right? Suppress emotions. You weren't able to express yourself in that realm. So it's almost infectious. And I like to think that we have made strides throughout the years to have that, when we talk about equality, men versus women, that comes in the home, in relationships, right? Where men can feel more safe. And I think in this video, there is a need for perhaps a safe environment for men to be able to express themselves, right? Instead of suppressing emotion. There is a need for that. So, yes.
Okay. Thank you much. Okay, well, that is a question that we could go over, and we could spend all night on that particular question. However, because of time. Okay, let's go to the first question, okay, for our consideration. How does Darcy's song, To Be a Man, reflects contemporary perspective on masculinity? Okay, let's hear from Drew first. Young man, how?
Absolutely. It's a very good question. I honestly would say that right now, a male's role is blurred. The perspective of we have been raised and are told not to show our emotions, that showing your emotions are weak. So that's one. And two, the word toxic that has come up with toxic masculinity has gotten masculinity, the term itself has got a negative connotation. So we're being told not to be masculine because it's tied to toxic. So if we can't be what God intended, which is to both we have feminine and masculine energy, we're being told not to have either. And we are listening, we're complying. What ends up happening is we don't know what our responsibilities are. We don't know what our roles are. And we then question our identity. Why are we on this earth? We need to be here for a bigger purpose. What's our purpose? And I think that's what's happening now to men, the perspective, and that song was very gripping, that it lets us know that we're not on an island all by ourselves. I used to think what I was going through, no one else is. Well, you see that video. God bless those gentlemen for coming out and admitting that we are human.
We are human.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir, I definitely agree with you. Let's put that same question this time to Leroy. How say you, young man?
Well, I guess one of the things I'd have to say is when you look at the difference between contemporary versus traditional masculinity or femininity, either one, and it's like Drew there was saying, the lines have become blurred. And I start to think, is that a good thing? Is where we at, is it a good thing? Now, some things are better. I think some things are worse. But if we look over the past 50 years, suicide rates are up, depression is up. I mean, so could it be because these roles have become both sides, men, masculine and feminine, they're kind of being, I think that they're trying to blur them and say, well, they don't really matter now. And it's like I was saying in the pre-show, masculinity that it's trying to be suppressed. The femininity is trying to be, suppressed, but it's bestowed upon us by other men. Masculinity, I don't bestow masculinity upon myself. It's femininity is not bestowed upon a woman by a man. Masculinity is bestowed upon you by other men. It's how other men perceive you. It's how I perceive other men. Okay, that person's masculine because of these traits. And then women look at each other the same way, and we think differently. And now, of course, I'm being all discombobulated now that I'm on the spot and trying to think about it. But I just wonder, we have lost those, we no longer have those rites of passage. So we used to have masculine rites of passage where the men would go out with the men, and it's like, okay, now this makes you a man, and you can still do this today. It's we don't have to go out and hunt something. We don't have to go out to war and fight something. It is something as simple as a father sitting down with his son, an uncle with his nephew, and saying, these are the responsibilities of man. I'm giving you these responsibilities because I think that's the biggest thing that nobody has anymore is we no longer have responsibilities. So once we start losing these responsibilities as men, once we start losing these responsibilities as women, and we don't have those rites of passages, we never grow up. We don't have that point where it's like, I am no longer a child. Now it's time to be a man. And I think we really need to get those, bring those rites of passages back. I think it would really help. It's because otherwise people are confused. They're confused about masculinity. They're confused about femininity. And then they just start blending the two. So, hopefully my train of thought gets better later.
Well, let me ask you a question, Leroy.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard what you said. Now, if you were a woman, okay, and you were looking for a man, okay, what would you really be looking for?
If I were a woman, what would I be looking for in a man?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You've lived as a man all your life.
I have. So I would probably want somebody that could provide, that was a good provider. Obviously, nobody wants to be broke.
Mhm.
I mean, there's thousands of songs about I don't want no broke man, So you don't want to be broke. And you want somebody that's responsible, because if you do build a life, you want that person to be able to build that life with you. And I do believe that we're partners. And I think what I said earlier and Tatiana brought this up, she said, because I was the one that said, I don't want to burden my wife with this stuff. And I think burden was the wrong word that I used. And it's because I do talk with her about stuff, but because we are partners, it's so she has a different perspective than what I have, because I'll be like, I'm freaking out over this. And she's like, settle down. You got this over here. And I'm like, oh yeah, completely forgot about that. So you want somebody that you can talk to. You want somebody that you can be on equal footing with, and that you can build, that is willing to build the same dreams and go in the same direction. You might not be on the same road, but you're going in the same direction towards the same goals. And I think if I was a woman, I'd want somebody that wants to, that we can compromise to reach the final destination together.
So you're telling me exactly how you are, correct, young man?
That's what I try to be.
Okay, thank you much. The question is, how does Knox's song, To Be a Man, reflect contemporary perspective on masculinity? Let's hear from Rashawn at this time.
Yeah, the just the overall term about masculinity and what it means to be a man, it's seemed to have changed over the past 20 or so years, in my point of view, because I remember growing up as a kid, I was allowed to cry, but at the same point, my dad was stern with me when, excuse me, my dad was able to talk to me. Sorry about that. My dad was able to talk to me in a stern manner without me having to feel that there was something wrong within our relationship and that my dad had to be taken away from us or something because he was being stern with me. My dad always he gave me rules to follow. He gave me rules to become a man. He gave me a straight line to walk towards. Whenever I would get off that path, he would bring me back, be it with whatever way that he chose to discipline me, be it verbally, or just having a sit down conversation like we're doing right now. However, in the past 20 years, it just seems like now, if you talk to a child and you give them you look to give them guidance in a way that doesn't conform with what today's standards are, now all of a sudden you're, as Drew said, you're being a toxic, you're giving toxic masculinity, or you just don't understand what it means, and you have to let the child grow into who they have to be, and things like that. And I remember with my children I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, but I remember with my children growing up, I was similar to my dad, where I was a stern communicator. And, when they were really, really young, when they were, in their formative years, because I would always tell my wife, if I'm not stern with them now and give them the rules, then someone else will do it when they become a teenager or an adult, and it won't be out here in the free world, it'll be behind bars or someplace even worse than that. So as a man, as a father, it was my duty to place my children on the straight path. And I didn't let any outside interference in. And that was a part of my manhood and something that I had to grow into. So that's, that's another part of being a man, just raising your family, setting your ground rules, and just creating amazing humans to go on and let the population.
Okay, you said something very interesting, that it seems as if masculinity has changed. Question, young man, what can we do then to promote healthy masculinity? What can we do to promote healthy masculinity?
I believe in it. It takes a village to raise a child. So sometimes we don't always, unfortunately, we don't have that nuclear family where the father and the mother are living together at all times. As a mother, you cannot disparage the child's father to the child. As a father, you can't disparage the mother to the child. And even better than that, as an uncle or an aunt or godparent, which I am, you have to take that kid under your wing and do everything you can to show them that there is more than just what they see. The world is a big, beautiful place, and there are tons and tons and tons of things that you can do, and just open up their worlds and just show them everything that you can.
Okay, thank you much. Okay, the question is, how does Dox's song "To Be a Man" reflect contemporary perspective on masculinity? Apostle Lucian Roas, how say you?
Yes, this song is really dynamic, and it begins by saying, "I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain." And sometimes, even low down in the song, he was talking about women, children, and dogs. And sometimes men can feel that they come number 4 in that regards. But I think in this song, the man was crying out to be understood, to be understood. And we need more support than people think. We have this macho, masculine, appearance, this ego, but we can be very fragile on the inside. In the beginning, and I go back to the scriptures where God says in Genesis 2:18, it's not good for man to be alone. In his infinite wisdom, he saw there was a need, and he made for him an helpmate. And so we always need companionship, friendship, relationship, fellowship. It's not good for us to be alone. We cannot strive in the context of isolation. So we as men, sometimes we are called upon to provide and to be the man. And sometimes men can also go through an abusive situation. We think it's only women are abused. And I want to strike a balance here. Not that I'm against that, but I'm saying sometimes men can be abused and suffer in silence because, wow, you're supposed to be the abuser. You're the macho guy. You're the masculine guy. You're the strong guy. And a man is being abused. And so he's begging to be understood. Don't just look at me as a provider. I won't. There's a saying that men like respect, women like love and attention, but we like to feel appreciated. When we come from a hard day's work, we want to be appreciated when we come home. We as men want to be appreciated. I'm speaking from a man perspective. I go back to the scripture. I'm an apostle. I'm a preacher for 40 years. It says, therefore shall a man leave his mother and father and cleave. The word cleave means to glue or to stick together to his wife, and the two shall become one. We don't want to leave a mother and father and join another mother. We don't want to be treated as a son. We want to be a man. We want to be a husband. We want to make mistakes. We want to fail. We want to succeed. We want to provide. We want to feel pain too. We all face challenges in this life, and the brother is pleading to be understood. We don't want to turn to drugs. We don't want to turn to depression. We don't want to turn to the bottle. We want to be understood as men, as fathers. As a father, oftentimes I think sometimes I feel I could have done better Sometimes I feel like I've failed in some areas. And sometimes my kids have to remind me, no, you're a good father. We couldn't get a better father than you, but we put so much pressure on ourselves sometimes, saying that if I was better, this might not have happened. If I was better, this might not have happened. And sometimes we can go around with guilt, and the burden can be overwhelming as men. And we feel that we don't say much because we don't speak as much, we don't vocalize as much, and we got it together. We all right. But sometimes we too need that supporting cast. We need a Jonathan in our lives, as David. We need friendship. We need support. You know what I mean? We need sometimes a place to be vulnerable, to divulge. You know, we not always have it together. You know, and people have to understand that. You know, we go out there in wars, we go out there and provide, we go up there and we climb tall buildings, we do construction. We the tough guy, but we need a place to where we can be vulnerable and it's okay. Yeah.
Said something that I really want to make mention of. That man is somewhat fragile. Now, the question I want to put to you, my friend, is this. What are some of the attitudes that real men should manifest? A real man. What are some of the attitudes that he, as a real man, should manifest?
Not just to be strong and be on a football field and, you know, knock a guy to the ground. That's what we see sometimes as a man. But a man can be loving, caring, humble, forgiving. These are great qualities of a man. You know,
Change
Bishop.
diapers? Change diapers? Change diapers?
Yeah. Do the dishes, you know? So I'm going to be a little bit transparent here. Sometimes we put up a facade and we don't want people to see who we are. You know, I'm an apostle, so I'm spiritual, I'm strong, I'm deep. I don't want to see, nobody sees me vulnerable, you know. And I remember going through a challenge in my life. Who hasn't been through a challenge? You know, the word of God says, guard your heart, Proverbs 4:23, with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. One version says, garrisons your heart.
Yes.
You know, if you look at David, a man after God's own heart, his family was to a point dysfunctional. His son pulled a sword, his incest in his family. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember a time when I went through depression.
Mm.
You say, what? No, a man of God shouldn't do. You're strong, you're leading people. No, don't talk like that. People will think you're not anointed. Hello. My teenage daughter, stepdaughter, was pregnant. My son got locked up. I'm talking real talk here.
Yes.
Real talk. You know, I wanted to give up the church. You know, I was going through some financial struggles and I wanted a place to scream. And I wish somebody could understand me. And then on Sunday morning, I got to come and preach a sermon like all is well. And sometimes that's the time I preach the most powerful message. And people come to me and say, Pastor, you was a blessing today. But they don't have a clue what I was going through internally. That's why I talk about the outward man. The outward man is just the facade. It perishes. Jesus talked about the religious people on the outward, it was white and inside is full of dead men bones. But the inward man is what we're dealing with. The inward man has to be renewed every single day. You gotta pull yourself together. And again, the responsibility is so overwhelming that if I go down, a lot of people go down with me. I'm the leader here. You know, so many times we gotta suck it up. Many times there's not a place of to be vulnerable, to you know, a place to vent. You know, so I really pray for men, and I want to encourage men. And remember, I say this and I close. The enemy is always after the seed. The man carries the seed. He wanted to kill Moses as a child. He wanted to kill Jesus as a child. The man who is the leader, if he goes down, I mean, a lot of people can go down with him. So sometimes we gotta pull our resources together. That's why it says iron sharpened iron. That's why I like fellowshipping with men, encouraging men, speaking to men. How you doing? What's going on? You know, I mean, we need men talk sometimes.
Amen, and that's so important. Okay, well, let's hear now from Tatiana. As a woman, she knows everything pertaining to man.
Oh, no. By far. Well, I want to begin by saying, Apostle, you are spot on. You actually threw out a lot in what you just said. There's so many elements and factors to a man, right? The masculinity of a man. I want to begin by saying you're right about a man putting on a facade. I like to use faces we see, hearts you don't know in general, but it applies. So I will say here in this platform. However, I do agree with you because men suppress and they put on a facade many times. There is a high need for a space, right, where men can actually express their emotions, be validated. I think that's a key word that men often lack, right? They lack that validation from the people that matter the most, I think. And however, it's like something like Leroy says, it's validations that are bestowed by other men and women. As Bishop has stated before, many times men are belittled by their significant others, right? They're belittled at home by their women. Maybe they're not providing enough or whatever the case may be. And that becomes an issue. I apologize. But I also want to go back to like defining masculinity, because it also is about behaviors and attitudes, right? From men. It's a behavior and an attitude. And those behaviors and attitudes, men are not born with. They're behaviors and attitudes that are instilled in them through their caregivers, right? Through their upbringings, through their models. So, in essence, if we're talking about men, I am a single parent and I raised two men. I probably would have done 100% better if I had my significant other be a role in the upbringing of a man so that they could model after that person, right? However, that was not the case. So when we're talking about how men are today, I think that one major and vital, essential part is communication, right? If you're suppressing your emotions, but yet you want to be validated, I mean, it's going to be difficult because nobody's a mind reader. No one. So you have to learn to express. Even if sometimes it means you're crying, you're yelling. I mean, you have to be able to feel safe in doing that. I mean, without being violent, because there's also toxic masculinity, which if we talk about toxic masculinity a little bit here, and it's about the traditional way that carries on to today's time, right? What was toxic about being a man that is considered toxic? Men like to have many women. That was one, right? Controlling, physical strength, exerting that in their homes to show that they are the men. Today, like we are talking, men are more receptive to doing what was traditionally known as women's work, right? Cleaning up, sweeping, washing a dish, like helping changing a diaper, feeding the baby so that the other person can sleep, like reversing the roles, not taking away from the masculinity of your partner. Makes sense?
Yes.
This is where my perspective is coming in.
You said a lot, Tatiana. You said so
Very
much.
good.
Now, hear me. You said that you're raising two boys as a single parent. Okay. What source do you draw from? Because you have masculinity around you.
My
Now,
dad was an amazing role model, and I thank God every day for him. He's passed, but he was there, and he was an amazing. So when I say our boys model after the male model in their family. And I have to be, I am blessed, grateful, and thankful every day of my life for my dad, because he had all girls and yet he had 4 grandsons. And what he left behind was that attention with a woman, right? How attentive, how involved, how he communicated, how he listened, even how he got upset. He never hurt anyone. He never raised his hand. He may have raised his voice, but never
Sure.
in a violent way, So there was a way of him. And my dad was a military guy. He served in the Marines, so that is where my attraction of law enforcement comes in.
Okay.
However, with that being said, my dad was an amazing role model for my children, for my girls and my boys, but specifically here in this, on this topic for my sons.
Beautiful. Well said indeed, young lady. Now, let me ask this question, or put this question to the panel. And I'm hoping that you, Tatiana, will really weigh in first. Okay, what builds masculinity? What is it that really builds masculinity?
I think I would say confidence, right? Confidence in, again, going back to the model, to the first initial caregiver and what you're seeing, because this could go in 2 ways, right? I think a lot of the toxic masculinity would come from a lot of the poor examples that the person had, the son, the child had in their lives. However, what builds it is exactly the opposite. If we're talking about in today's society, someone that has confidence in themselves, yet, so let's go with high esteem, self-esteem versus an overinflated ego, if that makes any sense to the men here, right? Someone that is dependable, reliable, responsible. I could go on, but
Okay, let's
those
see
are
if
the
we
major
can cover that.
points, the key
Okay.
points.
Thank you much. Okay, men, would you like to weigh in, please? What is it that builds masculinity?
I'd be happy to chime in. Take the word masculinity and look at the first 4 letters. And what are those first 4 letters? Mask. Remove the mask. Be authentic. Be who you are. Don't care what other people think about you. Be a good person. And there you go. Remove the mask.
Okay, okay. Anyone else like to chime in on that question? Remove
I think once again to build masculinity, I think once again we're trying to go back to the how do I make myself more masculine, but I don't give myself masculinity. Masculinity is conferred upon me. It's like I said earlier, it's like honor. Honor is not you can't give yourself honor. If you're an honorable person, it's because other people see you as an honorable person. And you can have integrity, but you can give yourself integrity, but you can't give yourself honor. And I see the same thing with masculinity. You can be confident, you can be overconfident. You can take the mask off. So I take the mask off. I could be I don't want to use bad language, but I could be just a horrible person with the mask off. So that doesn't build the masculinity by being authentic, because I could be an authentically horrible person, and then people are going to look at me and they're going to be like, well, I'm authentic, and I think it boils down to, like Tatiana was saying, you have confidence, but you have to have the confidence in knowing who you are. It's like, I've had people ask you, like when let's say I was I remember one time I was at the bar, and this was right after I got out of the joint, and I got into it with somebody, and they were like, "What do you think, you're a badass?" And I'm like, "I don't think I'm a badass at all." Nope. But this is going to end badly for you, because I can unleash the wolf, and it's it's why I don't drink. I'm a very happy drunk until I'm not. And then I become assault or murder gets me the same amount of time, So I become that guy. So I'm like, I don't drink. I just stay away from it. I'm the designated driver. But the how do you build masculinity? You build masculinity by somebody said something about we need those places to be vulnerable. And traditionally, how did we have that? As men, we had going way back hunting parties where the men would be all out. And even now, as men, we hang out and we may not sit there and we're crying in our beers and talking to each other and they're patting each other on the back, but we might be like, man, that was one heck of a week at work. And I hear you, man. And then you can complain about your boss, you can complain about your job. We're not going too much into detail because that's just how guys are. But it's enough that everybody there we skirt the subject, everybody there knows what I'm talking about because they feel the same exact thing. We don't have to get into it. So now it's like, I don't have to listen to you cry into your beer. And it's like, I don't have to be like, go cry to somebody else, but to men, it's showing that little bit of vulnerability. Like it's not all together. Everything's not all together, but it's okay because tomorrow's a different day. I'm just gonna complain about this right now, and then tomorrow we're gonna go out, we're gonna hit it and get it. And I think that's the one people start looking at you like, okay, he's what's the word I'm looking for? He's gonna take care of his business. He's not just gonna curl up and just throw it all to the wayside. It's like, okay, here's the problem. He complained about it, but now it's time to go take care of business, So, and I think it's just slowly over time doing little things like that where people start to say, okay, he's showing honor, he's showing integrity, he's showing the confidence, he's showing that he can get things done, and he's not just being that toxic person that's like, oh, I'm mad, I'm just gonna go slap my wife around, and so and that'll make me feel more powerful. But
Leroy and Drew, okay, both mentioned take the mask off. Now, that leads me to a question that I want to put to you is this. What would you say are some of the things that real men are struggling with that sometimes they don't want to reveal? Take the mask off. What are we struggling with?
I'd say sometimes. Oh,
okay. Go ahead. Sorry. No, go
ahead. No. Go ahead. Go ahead, Apostle.
Well, I want to simply say that I like your perspective, Leroy, because even though it's the Bishop's Corner, we have someone that is not into, let's say, born again, but we are all men. We want to hear things from both side of the aisle or both perspectives, so to speak. So I'm cool with you talking about certain things. Anyhow, one of the things I usually say in my church, and sometimes I get a pushback for it, is that in our church is a no judgment zone. And the deep spiritual ones look at me like, are you compromising? No judgment zone? Are you calling out sin? And yes, there ought to be guardrails and boundaries, and I will never call evil good, or I will never call right wrong. But at the same time, I think we can be too judgmental. And sometimes I'm scared to open up to other pastors. They mightn't invite me back to preach. If I tell them I have a marital problem, they'll say, you're not a man of God. So now the expectation is unreal. And look, I believe in holiness. And by the way, holiness is from the heart, not a long dress 2 inches over your ankle. You could have a long dress and still be unforgiving and still flowing in malice and envy. Bro, trust me. So what I'm saying is that sometimes we are afraid to share with other men what we are dealing with. And you may be surprised to know what we compress on the inside. And they say pressure bursts pipe. And I am glad when I could meet with somebody and let my hair down and say, bro, I feel this way. I'm tempted by this way. I'm struggling in this way. And we can be open, because sometimes we are scared to be open and vulnerable because we'll be judged to death. And I'm not endorsing sin and endorsing, I'm not saying to compromise. I love God. I love God. I've been doing this for 40 something years. I could argue with you if you love God more than me. But I'm saying, is there a place where we could be transparent without being called out and thrown under the bus as men?
Oh yeah. I believe that all of us as men, we do struggle. There are things that we do struggle with. So my question is this: what would you say are some of the things that men do struggle with? And we do have 4 men on the panel. Rashawn.
So some of the things that men struggle with is just knowing how to love their partner in the way that their partner wants to be loved. Because like some people have grown up in a different way. Some people may have grown up in a very affectionate household, whereas some people may have grown up in a household where, the words "I love you" were never uttered. And if you are a person who grew up in that household where there were always hugs and kisses and "I love yous," and then you don't get that, even though you love this person, it's really, really hard to deal with. And you may express it from time to time, but it's one of those things that because you love the other person, you may have to suppress that want, that desire, things. So just one of the hardest things to suppress, or that we do suppress, is knowing how to love the people around us the way that they want to be loved, not the way we want to be loved, but the way they want to be loved.
So then we can conclude that the masculinity does not mean that we are not struggling, because I'm sure that all of you, now I don't know about the lady now, that's different. She's not a man, thank God for that. Okay, but we all as men do struggle. Now, unfortunately, we only have 3 minutes left. We can't even touch question number 2. Well, we have certainly said a lot. We have heard a lot. My last question to the panel is this: what should we take away from this conversation tonight? What is it that we should really take away from this conversation that we've just had? Rashawn, what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Just because you're a male doesn't make you a man, but being a man is much harder than it looks. We put on that mask so that you think it's easy, but trust me, once we pull that mask off, we are no longer these handsome, debonair, well-dressed, well-spoken men that you see in front of you right now. We are broken up inside at times, and
beautiful.
We do a great job hiding it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Drew, what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Well, it's healthy to keep this conversation out. We got to have this conversation, and you're providing a platform to have it. And I want to see this being the norm rather than the occasional discussion, because tired of the way things are now. We need to unite, and there's too much divide in this country, and men need to just be happy who you are and just be yourself. I'm telling you, just be yourself.
Just be yourself. Thank you very much, young man. Okay, let's hear from Leroy. What should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Sometimes it helps to be vulnerable. If you can find that one person you can talk to, that's an amazing friend. Don't let go of them. And I would say a great book would be Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Great book. Love that book. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Apostle.
Just quickly, the question you asked before, and I want to say this, that men struggle sexually more than we think. And when I say man, your title doesn't have anything to do with your struggle. Bishops fall, prophets fall. I'm not endorsing it. I'm saying men struggle with a sexuality more than we think, even in the church.
Yes, sir. Thank you much. Okay, now let's hear from the only woman that we have on the panel, Tatiana.
My takeaway from this conversation today is that men have multiple challenges. And in essence, many of the challenges that they face are also by how society, right, views them and the expectations that are placed upon them. So I believe that this conversation needs literally more than one, day to talk about 1 hour. There's just so many elements to male struggle. It does begin in the home, though. It begins by the models, right? So in an effort to bring about advocacy to the male struggles, it literally has to begin with the changes in the home, right? What challenges were faced traditionally and how, they're evolving to make it better, right? So what changes are taking place in order to address those challenges for our young boys? This is a very, I find this very educational and very important, as a social worker, to even hear from all of you and your struggles, because it also brings light. It enlightens me when I'm listening to a client that's a male, understanding their perspective better. So thank you all for your input.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing more.
Okay, great. I love it. Okay, one of the things I do know is that men, we are very proud. And it's important we take the mask off. Well, certainly we want to thank the Lord for Tatiana, that's with us tonight, the Apostle Lucian Roas, that's with us tonight. Thank the Lord for Leroy Jansen, that's with us. Thank God also for Rashawn Trowers and Drew Durrani, that's with us tonight. Listen, it was a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner. This time, Dr. Phil, it's in your hands, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. That was such an awesome conversation. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we will be Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise is going to be having taking a trip out of town to a great place called Dubai. And they're opening it up to the public to be able to join them on this journey. So we'll be placing the information on the BCI-TV website, so you can get in touch with whomever needs to set you up for this. I think you can pay less when you do a group trip, right, Bishop? Yeah,
Yep.
so, I want to make sure everybody kind of like knows about that, as well as June 1st. I think Apostle Rojas is still having an event on finances. Am I right, Apostle?
Yes, it will be a breakfast, and it has to do with financial empowerment. And by the way, just last month, April month, was Financial Literacy Month, and gosh, know how far we're lagging behind in that area. We need insight so much. Yeah.
What's the address for that?
It's 1673 Dean Street, and that's in Brooklyn, New York, on June 1st at 9 a.m. And it's only $25, but you'll be getting about $25,000 in information.
Awesome. So thank you, guys. Thank you, panel, for joining us for this conversation. I'm hoping to keep you all for the whole month, because we're going to be talking about this for the month of May, and really want to make sure we get this conversation out. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again, same time, same channel. Take care.